Disciple, a record label with an interesting atmosphere that has drifted into the unknown territory and is now slowly returned into a new phase. However, this label does carry a respected familiarity to the producers that place their talented music on it. This is especially true for all the supporters and fans that have rooted for the medieval themed dubstep music label. Raise your hand if you, the viewer, have done any of the following: rooted for at least 3 members of Disciple in their prime times, have been to any of their themed events, or have discovered a particular producer from the label/labels that you still vibe with. I'll even include these ones. How about doing any small gestures, such as obtaining merch, created an art piece of the label for yourself to support them, or have gotten the chance to meet one or more of the producers? Congrats, you are the follower of the Disciple. That sounded better in my head versus me when saying it. Well, let's make our way for the documentary. Disciple is an electronic music-based record label originated in Bristol, London, and as of the early 2010s through 2026, physically stationed in Los Angeles, California. This was possible from the help and generosity of some important figures that ran an inspired record label called Never Say Die. There's a YouTube video on this record label in my channel. Disciple strived to run in a different manner from its competition, mainly a dubstep label, and later implemented rhythm/experimental bass for their sub-record label. This will be covered later on in the video. Additional sprinkles of other EDM categories was submitted into Disciple, including drum and bass, some glitch bass, and even 128 beats per minute bass house music in the early years. Speaking of the early years, to cover the entire road of Disciple, it's time for you, the viewer, to head back to the beginning with me and see how this all started. So grab your helmets and shields, head for the rails, and we will snick snack snot 'em to the year of 2012. That snick snack is a Disney's Sword in the Stone reference. Warning/disclaimer: I am in no way sponsored by the label or any of the producers/former CEOs that were once a part of Disciple's record labels. I'm an EDM content creator that is giving my spin, my perspective, and experiences from the times I discovered Disciple in December 2017. Also with meeting several producers and supporters along the way, both in and out of the label, and mostly the music that officially got me into the dubstep world. I wouldn't have met and even gotten the privilege to know some of these ravers, DJs, and producers if it wasn't for this record label, especially the good memories created on the moshing dance floor, along with making certain content with a few individuals too. This documentary is dedicated for all the producers that submitted their songs on the label, those that attempted to place their tunes but weren't approved, and lastly, the ravers that have rooted for the medieval-themed crew of Disciple. As mentioned above, Rob Talbot, aka Dodgen Fusky, was the first person and half responsible for starting up Disciple. This, along with Ross Burr, also known as Myro, was the second individual, and the other half creating a dual partnership with managing the newly formed record label. While living in a vehicle, the two had a dream to make a new label name into the dubstep world, and they officially incorporated the name in October 2012 at Bristol, London. Interesting quick fact in why the name Disciple was chosen: Rob personally mentioned, "The name just sounded cool. That's it." The first submitted tracks were actually remixes by Dodgen Fusky, with the originals being placed in another record label named Never Say Die. And yes, permission was granted by the duo that ran the other dubstep label. Well, since we are mentioning NSD, now we must mention about the bigger record label. Just a brief mention. Since Never Say Die had their hands full placing other producers in their label/touring, Dodgen Fusky was a small name at the time in the early 2010s. Unfortunately, this name was dropped out of NSD, going from a closing door into another door being opened. This door wasn't for any regular entry, my ravers, but a new, massive entrance that was ready to be crafted. A reasonable financial loan was given to Rob and Ross from 2 other record label leaders, thanks to the helping hands of Schism and Mob Scene. These two helped out Dodgen Fusky and Myro significantly with their early financial support and getting the two further industry connections. Without Schism and Mob Scene, there's a good chance that Disciple would have never happened. Having small known words of a new music pool is better than not having any to start out with. This was a unique advantage that Dodge openly admits when the drawbridge of Disciple finally opened. Something different with how Rob and Ross wanted Disciple to be known was giving a gathering of talented and meaningful producers a cohort atmosphere of this record label. That fact, along with releasing music freely without strict label contracts, being surrounded as a family style like crew, and even branching out for possibly making another label under Disciple. This was the version for the name. The early OGs of the label that joined Dodge and Fusky and Myro were Christian Valentin, aka Virtual Riot, along with a side project called Astronaut that Myro was half responsible for. These were the few core starters of Disciple. In the year of 2013, Disciple moved from London to the United States, specifically stationing in Los Angeles. The main reason? The dubstep hype wasn't really happening in the UK, but was gaining massive grounds in the United States, thanks to some icons like Skrillex placing out his early iconic bangers. The 4 projects started the foundation of this new move with, of course, none other than making the songs on the label. One of the first tracks, if not the official first song, was from Virtual Riot's There Goes Your Money. Rob openly admitting to his contribution when it comes to releasing the remixes on Disciple. His first batch were from a remix EP by the original title Bad Meaning Good EP. The original 4 songs that he created for Never Say Die were remixed by the following producers: Silent, 501, Flinch, and Astronaut, with the names by Turn It Up, Got to Come Together, Bad, and Call My Name. For these 4, along with Val's submission, was the origin starting point with Disciple's discography. Along with the earliest producer names that started the label, jumping into 2014, a duo pair was about to make their mark for the medieval-themed label. The 2 producers to mention are Matthew Mayer and William Watkins, nicknamed Willie or Watt for short, and this duo was known as Barely Alive. As they started out in Disciple, the 2 didn't have a clue with how they wanted to have their identity known, but they came up with an idea to be the only project on the label that would perform with a giant mask, or helmet. A big mask when they started out, but as time went on, the technology that they were able to implement with the help of other creators became shorter and is now known for this image that you see on the screen. With 2014 underway, Disciple's mark for the bass music scene was spreading reasonably fast. They released early editions of the Disciple Alliance compilations, showcasing numerous rising bass artists to take a chance in having their own music on the label, and so on. They even gained recognition from UKF and was nominated for UKF's Label of the Year award. With Rob taking notice of Barely Alive's music creation, they joined Disciple in 2014. And now having these 4 with Myro, Dodge and Fusky, Barely Alive, and Virtual Riot, these 4 were ready to bring in more. On forth to the mid-2010s, ravers. Now we are going from the underground label into a more recognized brand in EDM culture. For the mid-2010s, releases were placed for the thousands to hear new bangers that were coming in, such as new names like Fox Stevenson, Phase 1, and a big part by Dubloads were starting to make their names more into the label. Major compilations such as the first Reinforcements volume and Alliances launched that year as well, which also took form from the dubstep fans to headbang with. Surely Steady was how Disciple successfully pressed forward, for in 2015, Dubloads joins Disciple via the UKF website. Into 2016 we go with a significant move from the label for the early years specifically, with what's to come should be considered as a silly, stupid, yet effective unity. The OG producers needed to find a way to market their record label a bit more. That's where the trio of Dubloads, Virtual Riot, and Barely Alive combined their names into a ridiculous yet poppin' performing side project. Disciple wouldn't have gotten the rise thanks to this move, a dumb name that is still talked about over 10 years later in some cases. Not to mention, the side project casted a message to not take certain music styles seriously. Lastly, an inspiration that just about anyone, even your mama and papa and grandma and grandpa, can make dubstep. The name? It's Chode Gang, motherfucker. There's a big YouTube documentary on this trio in my channel. It's Ray Price and one of my favorites. Go check it out after this, Ravers. Thank you. Also, a big change happened behind the scenes with Disciple's sponsors. Around March of 2016, Nicholas Sander, a part of Mob Scene, and Schism decided to give up all the ownership shares to Rob and Russ. Now, Disciple was completely independent from the connections of Never Say Die. Adding along to the family, Rob also took notice of someone from the European origins, more specifically from the Netherlands, that there was a certain producer on the prowl for Fox Stevenson joins Disciple in 2016. Jumping forward for 2017, we have a bit of an expansion happening to the name. The Disciple YouTube channel's oldest video, according to the official channel, was released on January 17th, 2017, featuring Phase 1's song called Origins. The Disciple SoundCloud going back even further than the channel, there were new names that were coming around for the record label, which one of them was Phase 1. We must also mention the earliest skits and group videos some of the members made were starting to make their uploads around this time. However, a sub-record label was about to make its way for Disciple Records. This was known as Roundtable. Launched in September 2017, the name for branding drew clear inspirations from the medieval legend Arthurian, thus Roundtable reflecting a curated circle of artists going in with the heavy and experimental bass music was formed. More flexible for those outside of the original label and having a shot being a part of the family but not officially a member of the record label. This sublabel was headed by 12 Planet, an OG dubstep producer and DJ that has a reasonable mark as being one of the last main dubstep projects of the late 2000s. He took on the AR leadership to spotlight emerging underground producers and provide them a platform distinct from the main Disciple roster. Their first release was a massive headbanging compilation that was called Knights of the Round Table. The first volume, may I add. Producers that were on the official Disciple label and producers that were outside had a chance to combine their creative forces, solo or with collabs, and make their mark for the Round Table. The numbers on many platforms steadily growing up, Disciple's future was looking really good. Numerous producers placed their songs on the Round Table label. I just realized that rhymed. Moving on. Here are some of the producers that I will include in this short list, and keep in mind, as I mentioned previously, there are numerous. They go by the following: Dirt Monkey, Jekyll and Hyde, Uber, which is now a name that is retired from the music scene, Hi I'm Ghost, Control Freak, Wales, Cyclops, Leotrix, AU5, even Subtronics submitted a couple of songs to the Round Table. But we also got to give a small shout out for a few female producers such as Dino Shadix and Genie having full EPs of their own on the label, which took place a couple of years down the line in other volumes. Before going into 2018, we must first mention a few names that have joined in 2017. For 12 Planet, he joins confirmed via YouTube channel trailer. Phase 1 joins confirmed via Facebook, and Infect joins via confirmation of a fandom webpage. Now going forth into 2018, Disciple was starting its influence among the ravers in not only going for more events, but the merchandise along with the self-made arts like custom paints, and few ravers starting to get tattoos of the logo/symbols of the record label were starting up in honor of them. Virtual Riot's German Engineer EP made some significant plays all over the music platforms for EDM listeners, and that was how I was curious in knowing what Disciple was all about, thanks to Virtual Riot and Barely Alive. Side quest time. This was all thanks through a drop video featuring Barely Alive and Virtual Riot along with dubloads playing the Sunrise set at EDC Las Vegas 2017's Bass Pod. For many videos that unfortunately do get flagged, back then, drop videos were more lenient with the unrecognizable IDs and the drops that producers were making their plays for festivals, for gigs, etc. It was thanks to the drop video that I was familiar with not only the three projects, but the name Disciple itself. March 2018 was my first official dose of dubstep thanks to Virtual Riot and Barely Alive's Basement Dwellers USA tour. One of the destinations was in Exchange LA. That night was a definite eye-opener indeed. With the aggressive drops and the hard, heavy rhythms, not only did I understood, but I also entered the world of dubstep that night. Yeah, I did not think it was going to be that hectic right in front of Virtual Riot as he was going in through the decks. Before leaving the 2018 year, a milestone for the label happened as the Disciple HQ was officially opened in Hollywood, California, nearby the famous Sunset Boulevard. Located right on the other side of a grade school, an opening event took place to meet the producers before a complete takeover event was about to go down in December 2018. And what do you know? I was there. The Disciple takeover that took place at the Hollywood Palladium was a good success mark in knowing the name was here to stay for years to follow. Here is an actual poster that I still have all these years later in me seeing Val and meeting Eliminate for the first time. The way I met Val was through a Brownies and Lemonade pop-up, but thanks to this pop-up, it was me when I found out about Disciples openings, and I told myself I have to go see and root for these new DJs that who knows if I will end up liking their style. Another small side quest to mention was how I met Eliminate. And upon meeting him, I simply asked, why did you chug that alcohol from your shoe? He was touring in Australia and making his name known over there in that continent, but he just simply said, it's a thing some drinkers do in Australia called a shoey. For 2018, these following producers joined Disciple. Modestep joins confirmed via YouTube channel. Mid-2018, Eliminate, who I met, and Panda Eyes joined confirmed via YouTube channel. Lastly, with late 2018, Olivers and Terravita joins confirmed via YouTube channel. The time was reaching into a new direction for the label. Now on forth to 2019. Getting involved from a new music company and no longer having the core of a family-based atmosphere, this was the start of a new direction with the label. By around late 2019 to early 2020, Rob steps down from managing Disciple and passes the ownership to Create Music Group, a music distribution and label company. Also, some artists were starting to release other music on other labels and even leaving entirely. From the first show at the Palladium came another show to go bigger than before. Hollywood Palladium going not only once, but twice. Let's talk about the second show specifically. This particular show was themed as The Kingdom. Rob personally saw to the theme decorations and production setups of his traveling terms with an SUV and a carry loader, having everything inside and getting from point A to destination B. But the name of Disciple was not stopping there, for this record label was making its rounds all over the world, even performed in festivals like Perucaville, Germany, along with Argentina and Brazil for the very first time, taking the name to South America. Mid-2019, Bandles joins Disciple confirmed via YouTube channel, along with Dirty Phonics and Chibs joining via YouTube channel right after them. The end of the 2010s decade was the year none other than 2020. No surprise with how COVID impacted the entire empire of Disciple and the music industry in general. During the impacting pandemic of that year, the last show repping the Disciple name before the world change was the Swampland EP. This event was going to take place at Exchange LA, and 12 Planet being the main headliner, along with Bandles being direct support. Unfortunately, this event never happened as the world went into full pandemic mode in early March of 2020. With no events being made possible, the label was in full streaming events. Some decided to make their own names on social media platforms such as YouTube. One specifically was actually Eliminate deciding to go full throttle mode on YouTube/streaming mode on Twitch to do mostly random producing shenanigans, which was a big smart move in my opinion. Some were making virtual events that took place in the cubicle pixel world of Minecraft, and even others went to Rave-a-thon live streams to keep their creative heads above the water. Unfortunately, everyone was in survival mode with what their own project was going to tackle in those crazy times. This was the time Create Music Group officially had full control of Disciple. Once the pandemic restrictions were lifted after nearly a year and a half on the lockdowns, many thought Disciple was going to make a new era of a comeback, or so ravers thought. Nothing was the same when the club doors opened up again for the label and with the new members that were following along. The final release of the Disciple Alliance was volume number 7 in late 2021. This was the last time all the producers from the label of that year submitted their tunes. In my opinion, the atmosphere of this compilation in general felt off and somewhat forced. One of the final standings for the Disciple name was thanks to Virtual Riot. He releasing his Simulation album for Disciple late 2021, in which a full tour followed along for 2022. Despite the fact that Val was unfortunately going through personal life obstacles that I will not mention in this video, he succeeded in selling out several destinations, if not nearly all of them. This includes the famous Hollywood Palladium in Hollywood, California. Right on the day of the event, the venue was sold out via confirmation of video of many cheering for Val and the team as he records himself just running around the parking lot to say hello briefly to some of the supporters. This gave the Disciple name some more time to remain on the map. Members like Fox Stevenson and 12 Planet in early 2021 silently left the label to do their own names elsewhere. 12, formerly in charge of Roundtable, gave the responsibility of the music pool to Vishal, a member half responsible of the Project Vandals. With some members leaving, others have joined. Mid-2020, Graffit and Ecraze joins Confirmation via a YouTube channel. Mid-2021, Ray Volpe joins Disciple, which was another confirmation on Disciple's YouTube channel. Although he only stayed for less than 2 years, thanks to his signature song, Laserbeam, that got him to have a bigger standing for other record label deals. And in late 2021, Bainbridge joins Disciple, which was confirmed by Disciple's YouTube channel. Several producers officially started exiting this kingdom during mid to late 2022, right after the Laserbeam hype by Ray Volpe, along with the remixes being placed under Disciple for 2023. This was the official beginning of the end and what Disciple was once known, a family community cohort system. The ones that left Disciple started to have their own names and their personal structure in the music scene elsewhere. This led to the result of fewer and fewer releases for Disciple. A good example would be Phase 1 leaving the label around late 2022, early 2023 to create his personal label called Sounds of Mayhem. For the time frame of late 2022, Beast Boy joins confirmed Disciple's YouTube channel as one of the last individuals accepted on the label. Finally, for the year 2025 and the current times that I am recording of the documentary, at this point, if anyone wasn't noticing various writings on the brick wall that this was the end of a chapter for the label, then I don't know what is. A massive notice would be Disciple's website. To a regular listener, a web page would be considered as a meh type of reply. For the music world, however, this notice is more serious. Yes, every record label must have a website of their own, but Disciple's webpage went completely offline with nothing more than a 404. Why do I keep rhyming every now and then? Well, continuing forward. Plus, merchandise ideas and sales went completely inactive for a lengthy period of time, especially ever since COVID happened. Lastly, nailing the spear at the stake with the continued ownership by CMG, the OG producers have chosen to build their own smaller kingdoms where they have 100% control of their name instead of being a part of Disciple anymore. The only shimmering light from the label was the compilation of Reinforcements Volume 4, which was none other than the last of the Reinforcements. Producers such as Focus, Hex, and more holding the final compilation of the Roundtable. Any additional reinforcement ideas of Disciple wanting to make other compilation is now remain to be seen, along with everything else that they have done before. After the release of this compilation, There are now only brand new names that were being released for Roundtable along with the original label. It was around late 2025 that Disciple released its final EP in late October of 2025. A new post was placed on Disciple's Insta announcing the release of new music by several producers, all new and upcoming into the bass scene. Not only were there many releases inbound, but the relaunch of Disciple into a new direction. Mostly, this label will be for up-and-coming producers of the dubstep world to have a shot with their own musical styles for Disciple. The SoundCloud page, as of early June 2026, had a handful of releases that started back up again in May 2026. A 6-month break happened to Disciple, and now, with things that have been relaunched, we are hoping that Disciple will take this new direction into a prosperous future. With all this history, we must mention one final touch that is somewhat related to Disciple. The co-founder of Disciple, Rob, aka Dodge and Fusky, states a new change was going to happen that didn't have a name, but a number. Nothing affiliate with Disciple, but for having a brand new record label. This number was simply stated as 2.0. Rob comes out with this statement in early 2026, giving confirmation to the community of the dubstep world that something big was in the works.
To talk to you guys about something that I think needs to change in the industry. I and way too many people I know have been stabbed in the back by really nasty people that should not be in this music industry. What we're going to do is change it for the better, give people better options so they can work with nice people like everybody we're surrounding ourselves with right now, and they're not going to want to work with those people. These people know exactly who they are. They're probably watching this video before because maybe they've stabbed me or someone I know in the back. We're not coming after them. We're just going to change the industry, and they're not going to have a place in it anymore. See you on the 2.0.
For the new name and era of what Disciple was before will be implemented for 2.0, but we cannot shake the fact that Rob and Russ had a giant impact in creating Disciple from when it was at its prime times. With this history done, we got to look into the musical pages of Disciple. Keep note, this is only going to be for the SoundCloud pages. For the main reason, Spotify only has playlists with each member of Disciple that was before and was currently making their songs. They have their own pages on Spotify. As of June 2026, Disciple's SoundCloud has over 200,000 followers with 1,100 plus tracks. And for Roundtable, having over 75,000 followers with a total of nearly 900 tracks. It's 897 to be specific. Important note, on this time of me searching the numbers, there is no website link or source labeled anywhere on the YouTube channel or the SoundCloud pages. Plus, no official page on Spotify either, but only playlists exist. With all this info done, ravers, here is to hoping Disciple will continue to do well in this brand new chapter, along with Rob, hopefully to bring forth a new community and a friendly rivalry for Disciple, which is going to be none other than 2.0. This 2.0 will be announced in early June of 2026. Hence, the reason why I am making this documentary for all those that have not known the history of Disciple, going back to the very beginning and bringing forth the info which is now of mid-2026. Well, let's get into some fun facts before we get into the discography. The name Disciple itself didn't have any real significant meaning behind it, despite some even believing it was mocking certain religious beliefs and figures. Rob personally states the name just sounded radical. It drew attention, and they went with it. Some producers that I didn't know gave their songs to Disciple are among the few listed here. Diamond Eyes, a well-known producer that is recognized in no copyright sounds. Also a record label I strongly recommend any raver to go and hear. Getter, a rising producer from another record label called Firepower Records, which now he has his own standalone name and is very significant within the dubstep world. Another name would be Slander, and we all know how strong this duo has become throughout the years. Sullivan King, another well-known individual that blends rock elements with dubstep, pegboard nerds, an OG duo that they made their rounds on Monster Cat, especially with a surprise release of Razor Sharp VIP under the Disciple record label. Also, a few more to add, such as Abstract before he switched to Bass House, Astronaut, which I mentioned earlier in the documentary, and Far Too Loud, changing somewhat of his name to Far Out. Few times the record label showed a family-style unity atmosphere when various members retreated to do band writing sessions, along with making mega collabs. Here's an incoming warning. This is strictly my personal opinion with how I'm going to rank the 3 songs. Third place, We Don't Play, as this is my least favorite of the 3. Hear me out, let me explain, ravers. If you notice the lyrics very, very carefully, when Virus Syndicate mentions each of the producers, all of them have their little pieces of production inside the song. For the song We Don't Play, this definitely is going to be only for a themed event when it comes to Disciple. Other than that, a DJ or producer will have to do some unique mixings or mashups in order to bring the drop into a more reasonable vibe. To play it from beginning to end in a set would definitely be an oddball, in my opinion. For second place, Get Lemon, which was the very first mega collaboration for everyone to take part in, and they even live streamed it via a YouTube channel stream. Last but not least, in first place, which is my personal favorite, How We Roll. If you pay attention to how Virus Syndicate breaks down and raps along with the song, you can hear little bits of elements with how this producer made this EP or this producer made this EP. And with how Disciple is known for at the time, this was how they rolled. With my opinion, for How We Roll is the best of the 3 when it came to the mega collaborations, and it was a really good move for the Disciple Alliance Volume 6 to have this mega collab featured. A massive thanks to the earliest producers that were responsible for bringing the record label to life, which is none other than Dodge and Fusky and Myro, from the time it was created in 2012 to late 2018. The most notable producers with the longest time span in the label were the Titans Barely Alive and Virtual Riot. Other notable juggernauts were Phase 1, Infect, Samplifier, and Eliminate, also rolling with the record label for 4+ years. Many of these members can even have a YouTube documentary of their own names. Each one can represent a certain place in the Electric DM10 series for my YouTube channel. Looking into the Disciples YouTube channel, as I mentioned earlier in the documentary, Phase 1's Origins was the first song that was released on the channel in 2017. However, the majority of the videos during that time period were only getting less than 10,000 views as of 2026. Only a handful of the song videos were breaking the 25K views. That changed when Virtual Riot released the music syncing video of Pray for Rhythm. That video skyrocketed to over 350,000 total views at the time I am making this documentary, which was the prime time for the channel to make its rounds for the bass world. The Disciple name takeover didn't just happen with the Palladium and other notable destinations in the US, but across major venues and festivals. Examples will be the following: Virtual Riot, Barely Alive, and Phase 1 at Red Rocks in 2018. Virtual Riot, Barely Alive, and Mode Step playing at Perukaville in 2019. Infect, Samplifier, and Murda playing EDC Las Vegas 2019, Bag 3 Back, and another Bag 3 Back with Rampage 2019. Special mention with Tritone that played at Rampage, which is with Chime, Frankie Nuts, and Olivers. Of course, we have to mention the Disciple takeover for Rampage 2018 that went with Myro, Barely Alive, Virtual Riot, and Phase 1. Another Disciple takeover that we must mention will have to be at Lost Lands 2021. From midnight till 4 in the morning, Disciple took over Wampy Woods, which included producer names taking the stage, Dodge and Fusky, Barely Alive back-to-back Bandles, Virtual Riot's melodic set, and Mode Step's old school set. Before covering Disciple's discography, we'll have to mention with the slight rivalries that Disciple had. In 2015, some animosity with NSD and Disciple did take place that ended up getting some of the early producers in the middle of the crossfire, one of which was Dubloads being in the middle of this bad situation, with Schism placing harsh criticisms on how Dubloads was distributing his music and having other harsh criticisms on Disciple with how it was being formed in the early years. Some folks on Reddit were hoping this wasn't going to blow out of proportion for the two labels, and at the end of the day, it was all about the main core of the label's existence, which was the music. Another small social media tweet coming from Schism himself, stating years after this event happened, he admits fault in letting go of Dodge and Fusky from Never Say Die. In exchange for his way of saying sorry, Schism does state in giving money to Rob and Ross to start up Disciple. Finally, we are going into the record label submissions. We are going to start off with Disciple and then closing it out with Roundtable. For the Disciple record label, the singles, EPs, and albums, honestly, this is just far too many to count from all the members that have submitted their songs. But we will give note to the Alliance volumes, the compilation volumes, and the Afterlife volumes. For the Alliance volumes, there are a total of 7, compilation albums, a total of 11, and the Afterlife volumes, only 2 were released, but I saw Afterlife as having some unique potential when it started out. It is a shame that the Afterlife did not continue going forward after the second volume. However, we must also note for the Mega Collabs, which was a total of 3 tracks. Moving to the Roundtable, for SoundCloud, this platform has nearly 900 tracks, and we will have to mention the Roundtable volumes. As of mid-2026, there are a total of 6 volumes with the Roundtable. For the first volume, a total of 22 tracks released in 2017, and Volume 2, with having 23 tracks being released in 2018. A unique feature with these 2 volumes, there is just one symbol of an art piece that is the only design that represents the volume, and I love the artwork, and not only on the design, but mainly the colors of how they act like a gradient collection. Same story with Volume 2. Volume 3, a total of 23 tracks that was released in 2019. Volume 4, with the same number of tracks in 2021. Volume 5, having a total of 32 tracks in 2022. And the final release of Volume 6, having a total of 30 tracks for 2024. Having a grand total of 153 tracks with the Roundtable volumes. Now, lastly, for the reinforcements, with a total of 4 volumes, somewhat smaller, but still significant. Volume 1 with 12 tracks for 2020, Volume 2 with 16 tracks for 2021, Volume 3 had 21 tracks for 2022, and lastly, Volume 4's 13 track pack for 2025, having a total of 62 reinforcement tracks. Notable producers from the Knights of the Round Table and reinforcements include the following: Asora, Autumn Hate, Bainbridge, Beast Boy, Dr. Ushu, Ivory, Jikri, Jekyll and Hyde, Focus. Also mentioning notable female producers include the following: Dino Shadix, Hex, Genie, Lays, Level Up, Lizzie Jane, and Vampa. The label name also had various sample pack releases from Virtual Riot, Eliminate, Modestep, Chime, Asora, Skybreak, and other producers that have helped, along with 2 remix competition compilations, and lastly, with some significant popular hits that some of the producers have successfully made for Disciple. For Virtual Riot, it will have to be Hysteria, Barely Alive with Cash, Dubloads, Fight Music 2017, Eliminate with Weeble Wobble, Modestep, The Fallout, Rave, of course, with Laserbeam, and lastly, Fox Stevenson's Miss You. There are others that I haven't mentioned, but these are the ones that are the most notable that have reached 500 plus plays on their pages. Well, with this entire documentary coming to a close, I'm going to be giving my personal thoughts. My first thought will have to be definitely the last time that I stepped into the record label headquarters of Disciple in LA. This was in August 2024 with a surprise pop-up from Bandles, Wad, COD dubs, and back-to-back squishy. Along with Bandles, you to get in time to meet other up-and-coming DJs and producers, some that I have met before and others that I've never met before. The ones that I did meet before were definitely Focus, aka the Angel Boy, along with the Living Proof. Me going to this event was all possible thanks to looking at Insta's search section, being the very first post that I saw on the top left corner of the Instagram app. Bandles was making an announcement to have a pop-up event on that particular day, and so I went for it. And it was at that day that I also got to meet not one, not two, but three unique DJs and producers that were making their own names in their own levels. And they are Dopamine, Prochi, and DJ Amethyst. And I also forgot to mention other individuals that were a part of the label and some that were representing the label in their own name were there. It was a real trip, not only knowing the ravers, but also the DJs and producers that I met, and some of them that I got to know on a human personal level. With all this done, it seems like Disciple is making a steady rise for returning into the dubstep world. Not like how it was before, but to give a new space in hopes for new producers to have their music out in the EDM-based community. This new chapter is going to be one that Disciple will be known for, to have that retreat and relaunching into something, hoping that there will be more coming along the way. But lastly, I must mention with Rob and Russ as a massive thank you to what you two have done from the prime times of Disciple. Speaking of Rob, he has confirmed of the initial name and the launch of 2.0 that will take form on June 7th, 2026, confirmed by him. And I cannot wait to see what's in store for the brand new 2.0. Finally, a massive shout out to all the producers that I met personally that were a part of Disciple, including Virtual Riot, Eliminate, Phase 1, Bandles, both members, 12 Planet, Dodge, and Fusky, along with so many ravers that I have personally met. Thank you for allowing me to vibe with you on the dance floor. Also, ravers that aren't a part of the label but have decided to take the journey into sound thanks to the Disciple influence, which will be Dopamine, Prochi, The Living Proof, and Focus. Lastly, I cannot forget about the gal producers that I have met along the way that have also taken their names into the journey of sound. They include Genie, Hex, Vampa, So-and-so, and DJ Amethyst. Just to give a little side reference with what the Disciple HQ looked like, and this is the unfortunate screenshot that I took as I was passing by in early 2026, meaning the end of what was once known as Disciple HQ. This concludes the special Electric DM documentary of Disciple. If you have made it to the end of this documentary, thank you, Raver, for your viewership. Disciple's socials are in the EDM box below, along with my socials being in the EDM box below. Let me know in the comments section what awesome memory you had while rolling with Disciple. It is unfortunate that the record label is now simply not what it once was, but in time, we know that with what Disciple has will always be a stable mark in the dubstep world. Unus pro omnibus, omnes pro uno. Thank you, Disciple. Lastly, keep listening, stay safe, and rave on.